Hey friend, this is episode number 527 of the And So podcast with Taylor Bradford. Let's get to it. Boss Girl Creative presents And So with Taylor Bradford, business and life musings from a successful serial entrepreneur. Each week, you will hear Taylor spill the tea on all things business, life, relationships, health, and everything in between. But don't worry, each week also includes a business nugget that will help you stay on course. And now a throwback to 3-year-old Taylor who inspired all of this.
And so.
Hello, beautiful friend. Thank you so much for hitting that play button on this week's episode of the And So podcast. I'm your host, Taylor Bradford. Oh my goodness. Let's get into this week. It's been a busy week. It's been a busy last week, from last week's episode to this week's episode. So let's just dive right on in. Let's talk about books. I just finished The Ghostwriter by Julie Clark. 5 stars. I would highly recommend if you like whodunits, if you like really great writing, if you love mystery. This one is that. I would say this leans a little thriller, maybe possibly, I don't really want to say like murder mystery, but sort of murder mystery. But I read one, I think it was called The Last Flight by Julie Clark. That was my introduction to her. And I saw on NetGalley, which is where you can get advanced reader copies of books. I saw on NetGalley that she was publishing The Ghostwriter. So I grabbed it. I didn't remember that I had grabbed it until I went into my Kindle and saw it sitting there after requesting it through the Libby app in my library. And I'm so glad that I got it through that, because there was a very long wait through the Libby app and my library. And it was so good. It was so good. Highly recommend The Ghostwriter by Julie Clark, 5 stars. I am reading Apple Turnover Murder. It's a Hannah Swenson mystery. Joanne Fluke is the author. I have read this particular series for years and years and years, but I haven't actually read something recent. So I went back into my Goodreads app to figure out when was the last book I read, what number did I finish, and so I picked up the next one. I'm actually listening to this one. I also started reading The Women of Arlington Hall by Jane Healey. It is a historical fiction, and I have no idea what it's about other than possibly women getting jobs in the government after one of the wars. I think this is set in 1946-ish, and they are code breakers, I think. I think that's what this is about. So looking forward to reading this one. It's already got me intrigued enough. I think I'm on chapter 3. So that is books for the week. In the garden, I feel like I'm in this weird in-between. So in Texas, we basically have 4 growing seasons. The first growing season is what we call warm season 1, which is my spring season. And then we have hot season, which is summer. And we're not quite there. We're not into hot season because we've had such a weird spring. And then I go into warm season 2, which is fall. And then I hit cool/cold season, depending on what happens in our winter, and that's winter season. So I'm in this weird in between because there's really not been this like definitive, oh yeah, we're definitely in summer. We haven't had that yet. I think we've hit 100 degrees one day, and it's July 15th as of this recording. We've hit 100 degrees one day since we started to warm up. We've had an excessive amount of rain this spring, which is abnormal for us, and my plants don't really know what they want to do. Like, my tomatoes do not like anything over 90, and so I watched as we were getting into those temperatures, I watched their production slow down, but then we've been in the 80s, so now their production is resuming. Because for tomatoes specifically, when it gets too hot, their pollen basically gets really watered down. Even though it has nothing to do with water, their pollen is not good for the pollinators, and it's severely lacking for them. It's wild to watch nature trying to figure out what the heck. Like, it is so wild. So my peppers have slowed down because they are a heat-loving plant. My okra doesn't know what to do because it's a heat-loving plant. So my okra hasn't been in full production just yet. And my pumpkins, I wasn't supposed to start them evidently, but I did when it said to start winter squash. And I attended a fall vegetable class just a few days ago with a girl local to my area and through the Dallas Garden School, if you're also in my area. And I asked her during her little Q&A, I was like, hey, so I followed your planner and it said to plant winter squash, which pumpkins are a part of that, back in March. And I have pumpkins now. And she's like, oh, that's for the first round if you wanted it. And I'm like, okay, but now what do I do? And she basically said, go ahead and take them out and harvest what you have and start over. And I'm like, these plants are pretty healthy. Like, the initial vines aren't, but the runner vines are, and they have rooted themselves, which I didn't know pumpkins did. I didn't know they send out roots when they send out vines. It's very fascinating. So do I or don't I? I don't know. But I can say my farm stand has been a success, an early success, which is so crazy, but it brings me so much joy because it means I'm feeding my community. And I already have like 76 people that have followed my Facebook page. And I put out a poll recently to find out, like, I am planning my fall garden. Like, I have to get my tomatoes in this weekend. So I've been hardening them off, which is a whole nother journey in and of itself. But I have to get my tomatoes in this weekend because they're gigantuan. And yeah, so I polled my audience and was like, hey, what are you hoping I will grow, or what would you like to see me grow? What would you buy from me for the fall season? And so I put out a poll and I got a lot of good feedback, and I had people actually take time to say, your tomatoes are amazing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's working. What I'm doing is benefiting people. And so I put out my farm stand hours for this particular week, and I'm not kidding when I say I had 2 of my customers. So I've already got repeat customers. I had 3 brand new customers to me this last week, and I had orders. I had orders for produce come in yesterday, which is blowing me out of the water, but showing me how powerful it is to feed a community. And I'm so grateful. I am so grateful. So I am making plans for what to grow. I'm trying to figure out how to rotate my crops because we're in this weird, like, there's just not a definitive line in the sand where I need to take my spring tomato plants out. So I have to figure out, okay, I've got to turn over my beds. I got to figure out where else to put these new tomato plants, etc. So I am trying to do that. I have made close to $200 so far from my farm stand that's been open for about a month at this point, maybe 3 weeks. And I did start researching. So there is a high tunnel initiative through the USDA. And so I'm trying to figure out, would I qualify? I do qualify as a new farmer and being a female and supporting my local community by feeding them through my farm stand and making produce locally available. And so that's good news, but I don't know if the funds are allocated into my region. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. But I did read that I have to get my farm registered with the USDA to get a farm number. So I already have my farm stuff figured out from a tax perspective. Like, I have a farm tax exempt number, but I need to get my farm registered with the USDA as a small grower. And then it would open me up to potential incentives in the future, but also like grant programs, etc. And then I would love to sit down with my local regional person to discuss the High Tunnel initiative. And basically, a high tunnel is this hoop house, and it looks like one of those old school airplane hangars. It's literally a hoop. It looks like a hoop, and it's got a poly kind of material that drapes over, and it is like the intent or the purpose is to extend your growing life, but also slow down erosion, slow down anything that catches in the wind, to prevent like herbicide damage, that kind of thing. And then also encourages the good pollinators and discourages the bad guys. So it would be fantastic because it would allow me to grow more. It would also allow me to extend through that winter season that's kind of an unknown, and potentially set me up to grow more like lettuces and spinach and that kind of produce, which I've not been successful with just yet. So we shall see how that goes. Give you a house update. I got my window bid from Pella Windows, and I was anticipating it being high. I was not anticipating it being that high. So I've reached out to my window manufacturer who was recently bought by Pella, and I'm going to see if I can go that route because I think I can get a bid on my Pella windows through them. I am stalled on my doors. I have reached back out to the gentleman I was speaking about my exterior doors and was like, hey, following back up because I didn't hear back from you. Our hangar door was delivered while we were out of town for the funeral and the celebration of life. So it's there on site. My building itself is starting in 2 weeks. So the actual barnuminium, the framing of that starts in 2 weeks. And today we are trenching our water line. And yesterday we met with the electric company again to discuss bringing the electric in. And last week, I believe it was last week, I met with Chloe from Boxwood Avenue to discuss helping me out with some interior things. And I'm really looking forward to that particular process. So that is the house update. So let's talk about stats. So I am testing that new Instagram strategy that I talked about last week. So I started tracking that last week. So I started at 3,587. I'm at 3,590 with Instagram. I have put out 2 videos so far. One of them was exactly in the style that I am testing, but I did post up a really good video, or at least I think it's a really good video, yesterday on Instagram. So we're going to see how that plays out. And then I've continued with the old strategy. I kind of faltered just a little bit. So I had a delay, I feel, in growth, but nonetheless, still growth. So I'm still posting daily on YouTube and TikTok with short form content. So TikTok, last week I was at 1310, and this week I'm at 1325 followers. And last week I was at 12,725 likes. This week I am at 13,038 likes. And then on YouTube, I'm at 550 subscribers. And last week and this week I'm at 555. So I missed a few days in this weird in-between changing strategies. So I am back on track with that. And so I will keep you informed with how that is going from week to week. Now let's get into search bar confessions. So what I've been Googling, it is a range this week. I Googled produce varieties that do well in Texas. I do think that is a very important thing to keep in the back of your mind. When I was seed shopping last fall, I had no clue that I probably should think about that or should do research. So I was just buying things that looked pretty, which is why I have Persian melons for sale. So produce varieties that do well in Texas, specifically stuff that I will be growing into the fall. and Persian melon recipes because those bad boys are producing left and right, and I don't really know what to do with them. If you've never seen a Persian melon, they are literally the size of, what would they be? A size of a tennis ball or a softball. So they're kind of personal sized melons, and they mimic more of a cantaloupe, and they're really good. They don't lean cantaloupe taste, but they definitely lean melon taste. I enjoy them. So yesterday it was like a coconut sauce with toasted coconut, and then I just I got all the flesh out of the Persian melons and then drizzled that sauce over it and then put some toasted coconut. It's delicious. My Samsung dryer at the shop went bad again. So I was Googling Samsung dryer code to confirm what I might need to buy to limp this dryer along until we move the washer and dryer that we have here at our house over to the shop so that we can buy a new one for the new house. I also did some research on drip tape irrigation. So because we are bringing the water line and I will finally have access to water for my garden, I need to set it up on a watering system. And so I've been doing research, but I really dived into the research, and I'm going with a drip tape irrigation setup from DripWorks. And hopefully it arrives soon because I need to get that system put in before we go to Colorado. And so I am not worried about water and just worried about somebody keeping an eye on the garden and harvesting what needs to be harvested. I also Googled what I need to do for soil testing in my state. We're trying to figure out how to best support the Bermuda grass that we seeded on the runway, and then when to harvest potatoes because I'm not certain. And I have potatoes growing in the garden, but I don't really know when to harvest them. So I did a test area and there were 0 potatoes. So that was disappointing. But I have more, and it is something else that I can start soon for fall. So I'm probably going to do potatoes again to see if I can change my outcome. I still have quite a few to see if I had any success with them in this first attempt at potatoes, which I think I put in the ground in April. So we'll see. That is my search bar confessions for the week. So let's talk about Nugget, this week's business nugget. And I want to kind of talk about this in between, especially as I keep seeing things changing on Instagram. I feel like Instagram doesn't really know who they want to be, and they've made more algorithm changes. And I can say that this most recent short form video that I produced for Instagram, I did publish it out on TikTok and YouTube. The intent was for YouTube and TikTok and not really for Instagram, but I was like, I don't want to waste this. This was really good. Took me a long time to make, which is homemade vanilla extract. And so I went ahead and put it out on Instagram, even though it doesn't fully align with that new strategy. It does, but it doesn't. Like, I didn't do a voiceover on it, which you don't really have to do a voiceover. And you can definitely tell that it's more cinematic than some of my past content that I was publishing. But anyway, so I'm in this in between with like where I'm at in business. And I mean that for all of my businesses. And I feel like my focus has really been on roofing because we have been just slammed, and in the best possible way, but it has put my other businesses on the back burner as to how I actually show up in them, which is a weird place to be. And I know I've talked about the in-between in the past, but I really feel it. And then also getting this farm stand off the ground, not really knowing like what strategies to try, and like really being blown out of the water with the support as it relates to feeding people. And I think that that is a very powerful place to be. And so I found a quote. It says, "The best brands don't sell. They make you want to join the club." And I haven't really had a business be that way until the farm stand. Like, to find loyal people. Now, I don't want to reduce the community that I have built around this podcast. And I'm not saying that because I have loyal humans that have supported me for a very long time and have helped me create community around this podcast. I am not diminishing the community that I have built around this. I haven't really built a community around Sugar Creek because it's really a one and done, and I rarely see those humans again. Same kind of thing with roofing. It's really hard to create community around roofing. We are re-roofing some past customers, but we've also lost customers in this re-roof process from this last storm. And because everybody's competing on price. And that seems to be the driver, and we don't compete on price. So that's been kind of disheartening from a business perspective when you can't get repeat customers because others are competing on price and you're not. So I don't want to diminish the loyal listeners. If you are one of them, I am so incredibly grateful for you. I do not want to diminish this. I don't want to diminish you as the human that has been a supporter of my show. I want to kind of focus on me experiencing what it's like to quickly gain loyal customers to my farm stand. So that's what is resonating in this particular quote for me. The best brands don't sell, they make you want to join the club. And to feel that with the farm stand so quickly is so encouraging. And so I kind of want to talk to you about that. Like, how do you nurture that? And here are just some quick tips that I feel are best at doing that. So being available to ask questions of your community and to be able to respond to their questions. Right out of the gate, I had people asking me with the farm stand, how do you grow your produce? Are you organic? What chemicals are you using? And that is a very important thing that people want to know about. And so being available to ask and answer those questions, being available to say, hey, these are my hours this week. And one of my repeat customers was like, hey, she screenshot my post and she said, I think you meant such and such in your posting. And it just opened a dialogue for me to communicate to her. And I was like, hey, no, I was actually just saying, here are my hours for this particular week. I am only open Tuesday through Friday from 1 to 6, but I appreciate you sharing that you were a little confused by my post. So I'm going to go and update it because I don't want to cause confusion. And when I initially wrote the post, I said, here's the week of, because you never know when people are going to see your post, right? Like, we're not seeing things chronologically anymore. I don't know that we will ever truly get back there. I kind of wish we would, but here we are. And so I start off the post, hey, this is my hours, or these are my hours for this particular week, July 14th through July 18th, Tuesday through Friday. And she thought I meant the dates of Tuesday through Friday. And I was like, no, I was just saying, hey, this week, in case you see this post in your feed, I don't want you to be confused about when I'm open this particular week, Monday through Friday. So I just went in and updated and said Monday closed, Tuesday through Friday open 1 to 6. Quick fix. But it opened the dialogue, right? Be available, ask questions. And I did. I asked, what would you buy from me? I don't want to grow things that aren't going to be bought outside of what I personally want to grow for my family and for people in my life. So being available and asking questions. Being social on social media. I am posting things about my farm to keep people engaged with my farm. I think it is so powerful to show people the behind the scenes look. This is my farm. Here is my garden area. I don't necessarily want people visiting my farm because I don't really want people knowing where I actually live. But here's my farm. Here is what I'm growing. This is my garden area. Introduce, refer, and promote. So constantly talking about what it is that you're growing, introducing new things to your audience, getting their feedback, referring. So I had somebody on Facebook Marketplace ask me if I could sell in volume. And then I had somebody ask me if I could sell them a bushel. And I was like, I don't know what that is. I mean, I know what a bushel is, but I don't know, what's the weight of a bushel? I don't know those things. And then referring them to a farm that I knew could supply at that level and promoting other farmers. I think it's so powerful in your community for you to introduce people to new things, refer them to things that you can't provide, and promote others to encourage people keeping their dollars close by. Showing gratitude. I am blown out of the water by the support in such a short time. And I am constantly saying, I want to thank those that came out to support my farm today. And just having conversations with people has been the highlight of this, and meeting people. And at first I thought I would put my farm stand outside and have it be an honor system thing. But then I was like, how do I keep things fresh? How do I not let the heat get to my produce? But then I'm going to miss out on talking to people, and I love to talk to people. Even though I'm an introvert, I know how to wear an extrovert's cape, and I crave human connection. And this allows people to come into my building and to shop my stand in person with me. And I can say, what are you on the hunt for this week? And they can tell me what they're on the hunt for, and then I can say what it is that I have, but I'm also taking notes with what they're on the hunt for. And so it's growing notes for me. And then collaborate. So I already reached out to my beekeeper and I was like, hey, would you be interested in selling your honey through my stand? I'm going to be getting honey from my own bees, but if you have honey that you'd like to sell, I would be honored to be able to sell that and provide local honey to my community. I also asked my sister-in-law, hey, would you like to ramp up your chickens and sell eggs? So she's exploring that. And so collaborating with other people, producing things that I am not producing, and being able to offer that through my farm stand. So building community helps you create more loyal customers. It helps you create reliable engagement with your business and brand. It helps you become an authority. It gives you better brand awareness. So people are looking for how you show up online, and gives you the feedback that we so desperately seek to see if what we're doing even matters to people. And I knew food would be powerful. If money were no object for me, I would have a charity, a nonprofit that would support people in my community that are hungry, especially children. And I would love for my farm stand to be the platform that gets me to that and helps me connect with other farmers and potentially chefs so that I can pull that off. I think that's maybe a 10-year goal for me, but I knew food was powerful. I knew it had a very powerful connection for people. I didn't realize how quickly it would connect. And I am so incredibly grateful for this domino effect that is created. And it just lights me up, gives me some overwhelm, if I'm going to be honest, about making sure I can supply people's needs on the scale that I can do so. And it leads me right back to that quote. The best brands don't sell, they make you want to join the club. And if that ain't the truth with what I'm experiencing from my farm stand in such a short amount of time, and I can only imagine that it will continue to domino into more, because food is a powerful connector for people. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. Oh my gosh, y'all, my heart is just so full right now, even though I'm in this weird in-between with the garden itself, just the connections to humans. I feel like, where I live, we are kind of a little disconnected from Fort Worth, basically, and this has allowed me to connect with more people in my community, and I couldn't be more thrilled with that because it also exposes them to the other things that we do, which is also a good place to be in. So thank you again for tuning in. Until next time, I hope you have a great rest of your week.
And Phil, let's go.
And like my 3-year-old self said, that is all for this week. Friendly reminder to rate and review my show wherever you are listening. And last but not least, I'd love to hear from you. Leave me an audio message at bossgirlcreative.com/speak. I would love to hear your takeaways, ideas for upcoming episode topics, and your feedback. Thank you again for listening to this week's episode. And until next time, I hope you have a great rest of this one.